Hi, welcome back. On this episode, we're going to salvage this fender. We're going to fix some big rust holes that are starting to form, as well as some smaller rust spots that are starting to form as well, with some more complex bends in them. Don't forget to subscribe. It helps me out big time. And click the notification button. And check me out on Instagram at Clara Garage. Let's get started. Alright, so this is a big rust hole that's starting to form. There's chrome that goes on here, and before I took the chrome off, I could see this big bubble right here. So looking at that big bubble, I knew I was going to have issues in behind the chrome, and so I wasn't surprised when I took the chrome off and found all that. So I kind of put the green tape on, so I don't get too carried away and go too high up unless I absolutely need to. So when I'm cleaning everything up and seeing what I really have, I'm trying to avoid going above the tape line. So it kind of just gives me an easy spot that I can see, so I know where to stop when I get into it. I'm going to take this clip off too. This clip holds the top of the chrome piece on. I already took a measurement. It's from this edge in is an inch, and it sits right along that grooved section. And this is the chrome piece that slips on. So it just kind of slips on like so. But we still want to do a nice job underneath, even though our majority of our work is going to be hidden. But it will creep up into here. I won't know until I clean everything up, but I won't be surprised if our patch panel comes almost all the way up to that green. It's going to be, I think probably all of this is going to be junk, but we'll clean it up and see what we have. And we're going to take this clip off so it's out of our way now. Yeah, just pushing on it, it's not very good. So when we're cleaning all the paint and everything off, we're going to make sure we don't push too hard with the disc that we're using, because we don't want to distort the metal, because I haven't made any templates yet. I want to get all this bubbly junk off, so that I can get good templates made of what's supposed to be here, hopefully. So I'm going to use one of these discs for cleaning all the paint and rust off. It's when you get to the bare metal, it typically doesn't dig in and start throwing sparks. It kind of floats on it, so it should just remove our paint and our scale rust, our surface rust. And it's just called a silicon carbide stripping disc. I started using these a little while ago, and I really like them. So I'm going to keep using them. I like them better than the flap disc. I find the flap disc will start to eat away your good metal, where these seem to not disturb it. So I'm really liking the so I'm really liking these, and they're working quite well for me. Alright, we started cleaning it up. We're gonna have to go up higher here. There's a layer of Bondo or some type of putty or something, and then the primer and paint. So I'm not sure if that would have been from the factory or what happened there, but there's a pretty good amount of it actually. And then here's our rust holes. So this whole section down here is bad, but I think we'll be able to cut along here and then do our weld there. Because in behind here, the metal's looking pretty good, and that'll help us keep our height proper. And then we're going to move our tape up, and we're probably going to clean up to about that line there. It's basically the other side of the tape, and then we'll see what we have. It looks like we're just starting to hit good metal there, so probably somewhere in around here will be in pretty good shape. but there are some bad spots in here. So we're going to replace this whole lip up to at least this area here. And when we clean up the rest of it, we'll have a better idea. Alright, I got this area cleaned up. It's a little bit rougher than I thought it was going to be, but it didn't really change how much metal I was planning to remove. Here's a little closer look at it. So right here's our line where that bracket was. And I figured I'd be changing somewhere along up here. One thing to note, right where this line is where this flattens out. So I will probably try to leave this portion here intact and then start to come up and most likely across like so. This metal in this section is still good, but it'd be too hard and more work and more welding to try to salvage this area here. By the time you cut and work it, it's easier just to replace this whole bottom section, which is what I'm going to do. And I'll also be replacing this section at the same time. I'm planning on making it out of one piece. So I made a cardboard template up. So it fits like that, and this kind of shows roughly how I'm planning on replacing. So that was my template. And then I traced out some steel, so I got some flat steel now. And just the piece that I used had a little bit extra, so I won't trim that stuff until I'm doing final fitment. And when I made my cardboard template, I left a 1/4 inch all the way around it, just in case when I'm forming it, I don't have it completely perfect. It gives me a little bit of wiggle room to make sure it fits good. It's easier to waste the 1/4 inch of material all the way around than to cut it perfect and then form it. Because if you're off just a little bit, you might have to add more metal on one side of it and weld it, and then you're making more work and more chance to warp it and distort it. So it's easier sometimes and better to leave that little bit extra and then trim it once you get the shape and start fitting it in. And then as we can see just with a quick look there, it needs quite a bit of shape. Oh, this is flat right now, and this has a radius in it as well as this line in here, but I think I have a solution for this. So we need to get some arc on it. And then I made some cardboard templates of the contour, so I'll have something to reference to when we're shaping our new piece. So I did one piece for back here, and then when I came up here, it's just a slightly different shape once you get a little bit away from this back edge. So I made another one up so I can check it all the way across. They're both very close, but there's just a very, very slight difference. Not very much. So about a millimeter, millimeter and a half difference between them on the very bottom. And the top's almost identical as well. The back template had a nicer radius, a more aggressive radius for here, and that's quite possibly just because this is so rusted out, it lost some of its shape in the area that we were going, because I wanted to make sure I was able to go straight up to the bottom. But they're very close, but I have two separate ones so I can get things as close as possible. And looking at it on our flat sheet of metal, it gives you an idea of how much room we need to move this to make it fit properly. It's a little bit there. So there's a few different ways we could start forming this radius. So one way would be take a pipe and force it on the pipe and slowly get some shape. That would be one method to do it, and it would work. It might be a little bit of bending back and forth and playing, but if you took your time, you could get pretty close to the shape that you need and make it work for you. Another way to go about it would be on the English wheel with the rubber band, so you could put it in and out and get just radius in the one way, because if you don't have the rubber band, you'll crown in both ways, in both directions. So the English wheel with the rubber band, that would do the trick too, to get our basic shape. And then another method would be using a slip roller. So you feed it in, you crank the handle, and it will slowly, gradually make a curve, depending on how much you adjust it. So for Christmas, I bought myself a slip roller. I haven't actually used it yet, other than one little tiny test piece. I just made a circle out of it, just to kind of get an idea of how it works. So we're going to use the slip roller, and we're going to go from there. So we'll put it in, and we'll do a nice light pass, and we're going to get our radius shape that we want on the whole panel, and then we're going to go back and we're going to use a bead roller to get this area here in, and that's going to distort it a little bit, and we'll have to finesse it a little, and then after that we'll bend this over, most likely on the plenishing hammer will probably be the method that I use, and it's going to distort it again, and we'll probably have to shrink this edge when we fold it over to suck it back in and get the shape, because it's going to want to straighten it out flat again when we bend it. But we're going to start with getting the basic shape first, and we're going to go from there. Alright, so we're at the slip roller. That's that practice piece I did. Just made a quick circle just to try it out. So this is the outside of our panel, and this is the inside, and we want to roll kind of in this shape here. So the inside is going to be facing up on our panel when we feed it through the slip roller, and that's going to make it get that curl. So I marked a center line pointing straight up. So when I'm putting it through the slip roller, I know that my line here needs to be perpendicular to the slip roller, because I don't want to get it turned one way or the other, because it's not going to give me the shape I desire. I want to feed it square into the slip roller, so I'm getting the shape where I want it. So I also labeled on the back side up when rolling, so there's no question that when I come over here, I'm feeding it through the slip roller the appropriate way. So I'm going to start feeding this through. It's probably not going to get any shape the first pass, but we can get a idea of how it looks going through. So when you feed through the slip roller, you go between your two rolls that are right on top of each other, and then this roll here is our forming roll. So we want to feed into our forming roll, and that's what gives us our shape. And then we have some adjusters on the front, so we can keep moving this forming roll up as needed to get a more drastic radius on it. I'm just going to make sure I'm square to it, and then I just start feeding in. So that first pass, we didn't really get any shape, maybe just a hair. So we're going to raise this up just a little bit, and it's just a little bit at a time. And we're gonna give it a little more. It's a lot of back and forth. You can really crank them up and do a bunch at once, but then you might over bend it, and then you'll be struggling trying to get it nice and smooth and contoured back the other way. So it's easier to go just a little bit at a time, and it will take a little bit longer, but it's worth it if you don't have to fight with it and try to get some of the radius out. So we've done just a few passes on it, and as you can see, we have just a little bit of radius starting. Not very much, we're just going real slow, but we are trying to get some shape. We still need a little bit more, but we're getting really close. So I'm going to give it just a little more of a tweak, and then we'll do another pass. I'm very happy with that. You can see the template fits pretty good all the way along. There's going to be that bend in here, which will give us this shape here that we're currently missing. And then we'll see how the rest of it is, but it seemed to be, when I was going across it, when I was making the templates there, that there's almost the same rolling radius on the bottom section as the top section when you got above that line. So we're going to call that good for the slip roller, and now we're going to move on to the next step of getting our shape in here. And you can also see from getting that shape in, this piece of metal is super firm. It's not wobbly, oil canny at all. It's a nice solid piece, and it's coming together quite nicely. Alright, so we got our curve into this sheet of metal, and now we're ready to do this indentation here, so it will fit on nice. So my dies on my bead roller, I have one that I figured would be deep enough to do this. So I grabbed a scrap piece of metal, I rolled it to the same angle as this on the slip roller, and then I played with the bead roller the distance and depth of the die, and I ended up coming up with this piece here. And when you sit it on, it matches pretty nice. So I still have the bead roller set up with the way I did this. So we're going to go over the bead roller, and then we're going to follow this line, and we're going to roll that bead in and come and double check it and make sure it fits properly. And then that step will be done. So let's go over to the bead roller and get started. Alright, so we're all set up here. So these are the dies that I'm using. I played with the distance between here, and I played with the depth. That would be about maximum depth that will end up going, until I got it so it fit nice. So right now I have this set at the maximum depth that I had went to. So to make it easy, I'm going to, this is almost a quarter turn. So I'm going to turn this back so it's parallel with this. And now I'm going to turn it back 4 turns, and that should be enough so I can get my panel through the first time. And I'll do this in a couple passes to make sure I don't overshoot. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we're up way higher so I can fit my panel in and ease it through. So my biggest thing, I gotta make sure I stick to this line. I don't wanna be wavy or anything. I want it to be nice and straight, so that's a nice straight crisp line. So I would like to get a new bead roller with an electric motor so I can use 2 hands and use a foot pedal. But I've been having trouble finding one that I can afford. So for now, I made this bigger handle on it so it's a little bit easier to feed in, and it works okay. So there's our first pass. It's basically just enough to kind of make a line. It doesn't really have too much of divot on it yet. So we turn that back 4, so now we're going to turn it up 1. So there's 1 turn, and now we're going to pass it through again. There's the second pass. You can start to kind of see the shape on it. Now we're going to turn this again. So that's our second turn. It still needs more. We're going to run and just double check it on there, but it's coming along pretty good. Our line's looking pretty straight. So now we're going to give it our third turn, and we're going to do another pass. Yeah, it's starting to look really good. You can start to see the nice shape coming along. We're going to run and double check it again, but that's 3 turns. We probably got 1 more turn and a bit to go. Alright, so this is our 4th turn. And we know after this pass, if we need more, we'll be turning it to about there. But this might be our last pass. Yeah, it's looking really good. So we're going to go triple check this, but we're pretty close, I think. Alright, we're super close. We're going to give it just that last little tweak, and we're going to feed it through one last time, and I think that's going to be good. Perfect. I'm going to go check that out, and I think we're going to be in good shape. Alright, so here's our panel fitting. So it fits pretty good. This portion here needs to be kicked down just a little bit. But it's pretty close. Like when we cut this out, it'll help it sit in so it won't be hitting these higher ridges. So we're probably pretty close where it is. Alright, so I've traced out where our line's going to be, where this panel needs to roll over on the wheel well section of the Fender. So I'm going to use the plenishing hammer to get my bend in. I'm just going to go real slow with light pressure and slowly more and more. So right now I'm using my 3-inch radius die, and once I get the bend started, I'm going to switch to my homemade flat die, and that'll give me a nicer crisp edge. And as we put this bend into it, it's going to distort this panel a bit, and it's going to kind of want to flatten it out a little bit. So we'll keep that in mind, and once we get this bent, we'll be able to go onto the shrinker, and we can shrink this edge back down, and that will suck this back into where we want it. And then we can finish the shaping that we got to do before we get it welded in. I'm going to follow my line as I go, and I'm going to be pulling down just a little bit with light pressure. But I always wear ear protection when I use plenishing hammer, and it's a good idea to use wear safety glasses too, just in case one of your dies or something break apart and something flies in your eye. And then once I get this shape started and have a bit of a good solid line to follow, I'll put a little bit of oil on the panel so it slides easier and it's a little bit easier to work. But if I put it on right now, it might wash my line off, and I might be all over the place trying to guess a little bit. So I'm going to start dry just to get my line initiated, then I'll put a little bit of oil on so things slide nicer. So as we see, that doesn't take too long to start getting the shape in. It looks like we're following pretty good. I'm going to switch to my flat die now, so that'll help me keep this nice and crisp line. And then I'll be able to put a little bit of oil on there and it'll slide, but it slides pretty good even without the oil. But the oil does help a little bit. Alright, I think we're pretty good there. We'll go back and have a look. But it seems like it stayed pretty good. I still gotta put my templates back on and see how this angle stayed, but I think we actually stayed better than I thought we were going to. So it might be very minimal tweaking. Alright, so here's our fitment so far. So we got it up. And that's one nice thing having this line here. If your Fender's skewed, it's gonna naturally line up with that line, which is nice. And then we look from the back side to look at this edge. And it looks really good. And then just looking at this, we can tell that this is standing way off further than what it was. And then this section's pretty good. And then down here has a bit of a roll. But we're not surprised by that because right about here, it starts to get slightly more aggressive, and then when we get to here, it rolls right over. So our next step is to get this roll to match and mark out where we need to start to bend this over, as well as get this to lay back nice and flat on the top here, which we can probably do just by using the shrinker a little bit to suck this back in. Just in this little spot right here, and that'll probably do the trick for now. And we'll also clean this top edge up, but this portion we are planning on cutting out because we want to keep that nice subtle roll on the fender there, and it'll be easier to just cut this back a bit and then start welding up because this edge is this area here is still nice and solid. Alright, I'm gonna use the shrinker and I'm gonna shrink from this line down because that curve starts to get more aggressive, and part of it might be that this panel straightened out a little bit as we were making this bend, which would be normal. So just from that line down, we're going to start to shrink it a little bit, and that's going to make this panel want to roll up. So from here up, we're pretty good, and then from here down, the fender naturally starts to roll a little bit more. So we're going to correct any straightening that happened when we put this bend in, plus add a little bit extra that we needed anyways for this section of the fender. And we'll use the shrinker, which curls it up, and it'll be the way to go. So you just put the panel in, and then you push down the handle, and you just go back and forth. So as you can see, that has a much more aggressive roll down on the bottom now. I'm going to go do a test fit. If I accidentally went too much, I can always go in the stretcher and stretch it out. But I might need to kind of clean this edge up on the plenishing hammer, and that might stretch that out a hair too. But it's coming along pretty good, so we're going to go test fit and see how it feels. And then on this back end here, we'll end up maybe using an English wheel or even just our hands just to encourage the roll to stay come all the way out to this edge. Alright, it turned out pretty good. I think we got it right where we want it. So we get it on. We hold it snug there. This is looking pretty close up here. And this section here is going to get cut out anyways. It's sitting really nice along the edge. And then when you look up from underneath, it's tight on the bottom. It's tight on this edge back here. So this panel is coming along pretty decent. It looks really good. So our next step is going to be marking out on the bottom where we want that bend, and then getting that bend into it. We'll have to cut part of this off, which is okay because that's kind of how the original Fender is anyways. So we'll end up doing a little slice up here, and then we'll be able to do this bend and roll it over. And when we'll end up holding this on here, and we'll get in and we'll mark our line. And where our line is, we'll go up the thickness so we end up being bang on where we want to be. I think we're ready to get this bad section all cut out. So first thing we're going to do is drill out these spot welds right here. I bought these bits the other day. They actually work pretty nice. So they have a little center pin and it's spring loaded and it cuts out your spot welds. I used it the other day on some stuff to try it out and it worked out pretty good. So we're going to do that on these two spots here. I think it's really just the one spot holding it on. I did go with a small drill bit. You don't have to, but I did just to help keep it centered where I want it. But with that spring loaded point, sometimes the bit stays where you want it. So there's our spots there that we're going to drill out. Up here is so rusty, I don't think it's actually attached. So we're not going to worry about drilling that out at the moment. And then you can kind of see my white line that I traced out. So that's our cut line. And then we're going to cut up and along here. And we're going to cut down this edge. We may end up forming this bottom part fully out of our new piece and welding it somewhere right around here. So that's kind of where we're going to do our initial cut. And good chance that's going to be our final cut. I think it's going to be pretty solid. When the grinder is going through, we'll be able to tell. And after we get it cut, we'll be able to look a little better and have a pretty good idea. But I think that's probably going to be all we're going to have to cut out, other than cleaning up this edge for exactly what we want to weld. As we can see, that's pretty floppy now with those spot welds drilled out. And now we can start cutting with the grinder. Alright, we got that cut out. This is what we're left with. So one thing to keep note on is that this is pretty floppy now. Oh, but it's looking pretty solid. This is looking pretty good too, actually. And here's the piece that we cut out. It was mainly just that one section that was really bad, but there was a lot of surface rust on and deep pitting on the outside. On the inside, it was still pretty good, other than along this lip. So these are two pieces, one on top of the other. So this gives us an idea of how much we're going to have to cut off of this piece to make it fit. But they fit pretty good together, which is good. And that's kind of the same thing looking at it from the other side. So now we can start marking this out and matching what's here, trimming it up so it fits nice. And then we have our template so we can make sure that this is staying where we want it, that it's not rolled in or out. If anything, it'd be rolled in by the feels of it. So we'll check that out as we go. But we can get this all fitted up and ready to weld in. And then we'll make sure we clean up the back side, prime and paint it, because we have all this bracing in here, which makes it almost impossible to get in and do a good job to protect it once it's welded in. So we're going to get this prepped and get this primed and painted on the back side once we get it fitted in where we want it. And this is our trim piece that goes on here, so this gives us an idea of how far back we got to cut as well. So between the two pieces, that'll give us a pretty good rough cut line, and we'll cut a little bit bigger, and then we'll be able to fine tune and make it fit quite nicely. Alright, we got this piece all prepped and ready to be welded in. So I cleaned off the edges that I'm going to be welding. You can see it a little bit shinier. And then on the back side, I've already primed it and painted it. And I got 2 spots drilled out for doing some rosebud welds on this bracket, as well as another hole for where the inner fender will bolt into. So we're not going to be able to hammer and dolly this piece very easily once we get it welded on, because there's brackets in behind here. So you got this structure in behind here, so you can kind of come in like that, but you won't be able to swing a hammer out. You could dolly it in a bit, but it'd be really hard to dolly it out at all. So we're going to get this fitted in place, and then we're going to start tacking it slowly all the way around. We're going to kind of start tacking this outer edge over here. If you know, that's for sure the original body line. And then once we get a few good tacks over there, then we're going to get it tacked on this bracket here. And then from there, we'll be able to start tacking this upper edge. And the reason we don't want to tack that right away, when this is sitting where it's supposed to be sitting, the fender's in a bit, so it needs to be pulled out, kind of like so, for it to fit properly. So we want to get this piece secured like this, and then we can pull this out a bit and get everything lined up when we have our template, so we can make sure we're keeping our good original shape. Alright, we got it fitted in pretty good, so we're going to start doing some tacks and working our way all the way around. Alright, I just finished getting this welded in. It turned out pretty good. So this is in here, needs some grinding. These were 2 rosebud welds. And then there's a mounting hole for the inner fender here. And I just drilled the hole a little bit bigger, and I did some welding around it, so I'll have to be grinded nice and flush. Same with up here. And then this all turned out pretty good. All the way down, it needs to get all grinded as well. There's going to be minimal filler or anything up here. I have a little spot right here. I'm not sure if you can see it or not. That kind of got away from me a little bit. So once I get this ground down, I'm going to have to hammer and dolly. But this section up here, I'm able to reach the bracket ends right here. And my welds are up above, so when I have the fender off, I'll be able to hammer from the back side with my dolly on the front, and I should be able to fix that so we don't have to have a lot of filler in that one spot. We want to try to avoid as much filler as possible, but you always have to put a little bit, especially when you're doing this kind of work. It's almost inevitable, but if we can avoid having more than we need, that's always good. But other than that, it turned out really good. So we just gotta grind the welds, and I'm sure we'll have to do some touch-up welds. But for the most part, it turned out pretty good. And other than this little section right here, we didn't get any funny distortion or anything. Everything feels awesome. So I'm gonna get my stuff on, and then I'm gonna start grinding. I'm probably gonna start kind of in this upper corner and work my way away. Just because it's easy for me to see with my blade, and I'll have the light one side or the other, and I'll be able to see pretty good what I'm doing. Alright, we did a little bit of hammer and dolling. I didn't do it on a camera. It was really hard to see and it was hard to get in. So I just did just a little bit. It feels pretty good. Down here feels perfect. Up here I can feel a couple of small imperfections. That will be, when we put a little bit of putty on, when we do a skim coat, it should get taken care of. So we should be pretty good there. I've started sanding it a little bit. We're going to do a little bit more. And that'll help to blend this line, and it'll help for stuff to bond to the bare metal. It'll give it something to bite into. Alright, I'm going to call that good for now. It's going to need a little more sanding. I definitely want to feather this edge out before I start putting any primer or any putty or anything on here to build it up. But it's coming along pretty good. So just a little better look at it. Came together pretty nice. So it's going to be pretty good when it's all done. And then these spots up here, I'm going to do this spot and this spot in a separate video, just because this video is starting to get pretty long. So if you do want to see those two other spots on the Fender, how I fixed those, they'll be in a video coming soon after this video. We did a lot on this, so I'll do those in a separate video. Both pieces will be very similar, so I'll try to do both in the same video, or a little bit of each one for that. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification button. Subscribing is a huge help, so definitely please subscribe. And don't forget to check me out on Instagram at Clara Garage. Have a great night.